Welcome back to the Gradually Well podcast. It's your host here, Mariah Shante. I am a health and wellness coach, and I am so glad that you are here. So, things are going to be changing on this show. I am actually going to start having guests come on and do some interviews so that I can have people share the lessons that they have learned in their life that have really impacted how they choose to show up. Each of the guests that I invite on this show are special, not just because I personally know them, but they are purpose driven people and they have, in some shape or form, chosen to live their life in a very intentional way for personal, valuable reasons. So I want them to come on and share it with us. When I first started this podcast, it was my intention to create a space where people were welcomed and it was normalized to learn and feel that it's okay to be learning about your health and wellness. It's okay to not know something and to grow into that. And I wanted people to feel that in this show. I wanted to have a space where we recognize our humanness but also our power. And I also wanted people to know that a healthy lifestyle is so unique to you as an individual. And I think that we've remained true to that. But as I have done this more and more, and I started back in October of 2022, I've gotten more clarity on who this podcast is for. Y'all already know I am a mom, I am married, I am a business owner with my health and wellness coaching services, and I'm trying to go back to school to become a physician assistant, so I'm wearing many different hats. And so many of you that are listening to this resonate with that because while you may not do all of the things or even some of the exact things that I do, you wear a lot of different hats in your life. And over time, since October, I've just gotten clarity that this podcast is for those of us who are wearing those many different hats. It's for the people that are purpose driven. And what I mean by that is the people that can't help but have this urge to live their life in an intentional way. And I want to focus on people that are purpose driven because there is so much pressure to do it all and show up as so many different things because we have all these different hats and titles. But with Gradually Well, we want to step in and relieve some of that overwhelm by partnering with you so that you can have access and know what peace of mind is like. So you can have the energy to thrive and live well. So we are kicking off the interviews now with this show by having the show's number one fan, my mom. In this episode, you're going to hear us have a discussion about how we handle dealing with our emotions, especially when we are offended. And we're also going to talk about how we figure out how to show up as the healthiest version of ourselves when we have so many responsibilities and obligations. So this is a great discussion. I'm so honored and so excited that my mom decided to join me and be the first guest ever on the show. So I really hope you enjoy this episode. Thanks for listening. Thank you so much for deciding to come on this show. And I'm going to introduce you a bit before I let you say your hellos. So, okay, today's guest is a big deal, y'all. She has not only been my biggest fan, but also a really big part in inspiration in my own health and wellness journey, too. She's taught me a lot of different things just through me observing her and conversations, but mainly me observing and being able to have a front row seat at her life. But she has taught me along the way that I guess to put it short, like when to make lemonade when life hands you lemons sometimes. And she's also demonstrated what it looks like to show up for yourself even when you don't feel like it. And that sometimes showing up for yourself looks like resting and recharging, which I definitely struggle with sometimes. So it's been great to have an example of that. I could go on about the things that I've learned. But if you haven't gotten it already, I am talking about none other than my mom, Tracy. So, again, thank you for doing what you do and supporting me and my mission and just by coming on the show to talk to us.
You are so welcome, and I am honored to be on your show. And I am super honored at the introduction that you just gave me. Thank you so much. I'm just like, have no words, but
Oh,
thank you.
you're welcome, girl. If y'all can't tell, I am pretty casual with my mom. I hang out with her a lot or talk with her a lot if I'm not in the same house with her. So you'll hear our kind of banter too. So that's why I call her girl in the most respectful of motherly ways. um, all right. So before I did give her some prep questions and everything, but before we get into that, I figured I wanted to let you all get to know her a little bit better. So the question that I thought of to get us started was, what is your favorite or most interesting dimension of wellness to you? So I'll list, there's eight of them. So I'm going to give us all the refresher here because eight is a lot to remember. And then
Hmm.
you can share what you think your favorite one or which one grabs your attention right now. And we'll talk a little bit about
Okay.
that. All right, so the eight dimensions, you have career, uh, family, friends, romance, environment or like your personal space, your surroundings, finances, emotions, and spirituality. And I can
Can I
repeat
take
those if
this?
you need me to. You want to pick two?
No. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Family and my environment.
Ooh, okay, okay. And all right, so why family?
Okay, family because I really enjoy being around my family and I enjoy doing things for my family. Um, I like when they do things for me as well, but I really like to give to my family and I just enjoy them. Like my family are almost my best friends. Like they are my best friends. Like they come first. So that's why I choose my family, and I get a lot of joy out of being around my family. Um, yeah,
That's
they're the
good.
closest to me. Yeah, that's
I can see that and
so
I feel that.
y'all important, y'all important.
Y'all, side note, this is the first time I'm gonna count it as my mom saying I'm her friend. I don't know how many of y'all's parents have said that they not your friend, but you guys heard it here first that in a roundabout way, my mom said I was one of her friends, so I'll take
Stop.
it. Okay, and you said environment or personal space was also stuck out to you.
Absolutely. I like my whether it be in the house or the car or at work. Um, I like my environment inviting, and inviting to me means clean and not cluttered. I'm not saying that we can't have a few magazines on the table or whatever so that it looks lived in, but my and I'm not the most organized person, but organization and my environment being clean and inviting is important because I function better when my environment is that way. So if it's messy or cluttered, then it bothers me. So if I'm bothered, then I'm not putting my best attitude isn't on display.
Yeah,
So to speak.
yeah.
So yeah, environment is super important to me as much as family. Like I don't function well um when it's not a good environment for me.
Right, and I resonate with that. I mean, like how you how your space looks definitely affects your mood, and like you said, it affects how you function. So it's, pretty good awareness to realize that if your space isn't right enough, at least right enough for you to function well, it affects how you show up in your day to day or even simply how you're feeling. So that's a huge area.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I'm not super, and I know there's other people that are more organized than me. However, I do like things in a certain spot because if I can just go to the spot and get what I need, then I'm not wasting a whole lot of time looking for it, which can be frustrating when I can't find what I need.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah,
Yeah, having your safe space be accommodating to the things that you need to do. You don't, I mean, there's so many unexpected things going on. Who needs your environment to take extra energy and time when it's supposed to be your safe space and a place where you relax and,
exactly.
enjoy
Exactly.
yourself. So,
Right. Exactly. Yep.
yeah.
You hit the nail on the head. Yes.
Yeah. Well, great. Those are actually really good. I might start asking people to pick two because that was great. Okay, so now that you guys will know a little bit more about my mom here, I want to give her some time to kind of share. I asked her to choose a lesson that she has gradually learned, whether it's been throughout the years or moments, but a lesson that she has gradually learned that has really impacted how she lives her life and how she shows up and chooses to live. Um, Her life today. So, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about that.
I okay. And I kind of have two of those as well,
Bring
but they
them.
go hand in hand. They go hand in hand. So I'm gonna start with a story. So this it's a real story, so it's not like something I'm making up, but it's real. So years ago, and I can't remember the exact year. I believe it was 2007, 2008, somewhere around there. So I went on a retreat with, just a group of people. We went on this retreat, and we had a great time. It was going really, really well. And there was a person that I felt like we were pretty close. Like we talked to each other on the phone every day, and we texted a lot and text. We text a lot, correction, a lot. And, I just felt like, this person was a friend. And not that they're not now, but I just felt that this person was a good friend. And they are still a good friend. You just have different different stages or periods.
Yeah, go through different seasons of friendship. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, different seasons. I like that. So at this retreat, I just so happened to come into a room, and my friend was talking to another person who's also a friend. And just for a brief second, there was like a feeling of awkwardness. And the
Mm,
conversation stopped, but it began back up immediately. Like, I walked in the room, it was kind of a short awkward moment, but then my friend kept going with the story. But I
hmm.
noticed in the story that it was kind of guarded, and there was kind of not really code words, but probably words that she probably wouldn't have used if I wasn't there. So it
Wow.
was kind of an awkward situation. So, I just I what was I gonna do? Turn around and walk out? That would have made it worse. So I tried to stay in my lane and just kind of be present, but kind of not because it wasn't my conversation. But she tried to carry on the conversation using these code words, and it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So I said, because I was in my feelings, and I said, well, if you don't want to say, then just tell me you don't want to say whatever it was she was talking about. And so, and I can't remember if I just left the room after that or if she went on ahead and told me what was going on. She
Right.
stopped using code words. I don't remember how it went. Eventually she did tell me, but I can't remember if it was right after I said my piece or if she came to me later to explain. And at that moment, since I was in my feelings, I was like, well, I was feeling a little salty and all like, well, being in leadership, you're going to be lonely sometimes because that's
Yeah,
what
it's lonely
you
at the top.
right. You can be
Yeah.
lonely when you're in a room full of people. They're going
Right.
to treat you different. And to an extent, that's true because when you think about people in leadership, when you think about your life, you think about your bosses on the job, or just
Hmm.
your position may not be as high as someone else's position. There's always like a hierarchy, and people will treat you different depending on where you fall on that in that hierarchy, whether they're your friends or not. Like behind closed doors, my friend could have felt more comfortable, but out in public, and people know my position and her position. So, at that moment, because I was in my feelings, I couldn't articulate that
Yeah.
because I was in my feelings. It was because my feelings were hurt. That's what it was. My feelings were
Right.
hurt, and I wasn't thinking about that. By hindsight, I see that she was probably uncomfortable as well,
Um,
because whatever she was talking about, she probably felt that I may not have understood, or she could have felt that the person she was talking to, since I was there, maybe they shouldn't be talking about that, or I shouldn't know what was going on. So maybe she was uncomfortable, and she was trying her best to include me in the conversation and to
hmm.
make everything okay as
Yeah.
much as she could. But like, I didn't come to that conclusion immediately. Like I came to that conclusion later, because had I come to that conclusion immediately, I probably wouldn't have. I didn't snap, but I was firm when I was like, well, you could tell I was irritated, at that time. So I learned that, I have to read the room better. Like, like I didn't take into consideration that maybe she was uncomfortable, and maybe she was trying to make me feel included by using different words, because it caught us all off guard,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't take into consideration what she was feeling. And at that time, I was feeling like, oh, I put all this energy and time into our friendship, and I thought we were here, and now we're not. And I'm finding out in this public way that our friendship isn't really what it is.
Right.
That just
Right.
seemed a little bit dramatic. Hindsight is 2020. So that lesson has taught me to, um, I think what it was, just being blunt about it, I was going over boundaries. I overstepped my boundaries in our friendship because
Mm.
I made a presumption. I thought she should have handled it a different way. I thought she should have handled the situation a different way. I felt that she should have been able to continue on the conversation the way she was without making any changes. So
Yeah.
I overstepped our friendship boundaries. Who am I to feel, who am I to say that she doesn't feel that way, or she doesn't value our friendship, or she
Right.
doesn't value the commitment to our friendship because of one little incident? Like I said earlier, she could have felt uncomfortable because of the subject they were talking about, and now it's public. Like, or if it was just her and I, she may have talked to me the way she was talking to that other person. But we were in a public setting,
Yeah.
and I was considered leadership, So
Mm.
I,
Yeah.
I I had to come to that conclusion on my own by myself because I was in my feelings. But now today I'm a little bit better at um reading the room, so to speak, or
Hmm.
not jumping to conclusions.
Yeah.
Yes, the way I feel may not be the way someone else feels, or the way I handle the situation may not be the way someone else handles the situation. And it doesn't mean that they're wrong, and it doesn't mean that I'm right. So that was one that really stuck out to me.
Well,
My
that's good. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Did you want me to go to my second one?
Wait, because you covered so much in that first story with, the self-awareness, even if it comes later, that's still amazing growth and the opportunity that I think you took for yourself. Because, we don't have to reflect on how we handle situations. And
Right.
especially when we're offended. Like, I think offense is such a strong emotion and it puts us on the
Yeah.
defense. And it's hard to I think see things clearly or in a
Right.
neutral way, especially. So it is challenging. I've been personally challenged to try to step back and think from multiple different perspectives and then
Hmm.
consider that, what, maybe it wasn't the way that I perceived it, even though I felt
Right.
so strongly about that. So that's an incredible amount of, it takes, I think, a lot of strength to be able to basically be honest with yourself or even just reflect, not even the honest, just even reflect on the situation and have there be enough space in that reflection for a perspective other than your own, right?
Right.
So I think that
Hmm.
that is an incredible lesson to even take the time to reflect and consider. And there was something that you said that when you said that you realized that you crossed a boundary in your friendship, I thought that was really good because wow, I mean, to realize that you crossed the boundary or feel that you've crossed the boundary in your own friendship, whether it was through making assumptions, is a really good takeaway as well. And it kind of highlights the importance of having boundaries and reminding yourself of what they are. And it was
Hmm.
deeper than just giving somebody else the benefit of the doubt, but you could definitely start with giving people, especially people that we call our friends, people that are part of our support system and community, um, some benefit of some credit, give them some credit,
Right.
and
Hmm.
realizing that, hey, it's not that your feelings weren't valid in the moment because, like you said, it was awkward for you, but like you also said, it may have been awkward, probably was awkward for her too, or whoever else was
Hmm.
involved. So that's, I mean, those are a lot of things to like us to think about, to take time and reflect on how we view situations and
Hmm.
if we cross our own boundaries in relationships with people. And it's not
Right.
necessarily of making yourself the villain or like, oh, you were completely wrong, because I do think your feelings are valid. You're only going off the information of what you see, and feelings just come up sometimes. But
Right.
we can become responsible for how we handle those feelings and
Hmm.
emotionally regulate before we kind of have outbursts or knee jerk reactions. And so that's a great lesson to have taken from that you can go forward and be better at reading the room or
Hmm.
emotionally regulating yourself too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. That was a big lesson. And like I said, I'm still learning it. It's not
Mhm.
like I'm human, so I can still get caught up in my feelings. But I must admit, it doesn't take me as long to recover.
Mm,
So, and which is good for me and good for the
absolutely.
people around me. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I am glad. Hindsight, I'm glad I learned that lesson, or am learning that lesson, because it's not always about me. I'm like,
Right,
I can
right.
always be replaced. I'm not so super important that, that the
Hmm.
earth revolves around me. So, yeah, I'm glad I learned that lesson and it made my life a little easier
Yeah.
for learning it. Yeah.
I think that's
So.
also a really good reminder too that, especially in this day and age where we especially at least in America, we highlight the importance of individuals. And I think it is important for people to, know that they are valuable and there's purpose
Mhm.
for them and all these things. But sometimes we can take those meanings and make it all about us and,
Right.
really kind of center ourselves. And I'm like, you're the center of your world, but not everybody else's. And it
Right.
sometimes takes a good reminder to remember that and to even consider. other people's perspectives, or that what they were doing actually had nothing to do with you, but they're managing their own feelings and experience as well, while trying to make
Yeah.
a little bit of space for you in that experience too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that is a daily reminder that I think we can take from that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's your second story or lesson?
My second lesson is to I've learned to, and I'm also still learning. And this one really isn't associated with the story, but it's just over time, I've learned to um, slow down and take time for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you have a spouse and children and work and involved in an organization like church, and then you have responsibilities in all of those areas, it can seem like there's no time for you. Or,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some people may be like, oh, I'm still going to take time for me, but I felt like if I did go take time for me, it was a little selfish because I had so many other things I had to take care of. So if I
Mm.
took a little bit of time out for me, then one of those areas was going to suffer because I didn't take the time to do it. And the little bit of time I could have taken out for me, I could have put that energy into something else that needed to be done. So I learned that all those things are still gonna be there, and all those things are not going to go anywhere. Like they're not going to um, break down and fall all apart. If I need an hour or two to myself out of the week, and or maybe not even out of the week, an hour a day or half an hour during the day, or if I don't get to wipe that spot off the table, because remember, my environment is super important to me. But
Mm-hmm.
if I didn't get a chance to wipe the table right that second, it was going to be okay.
Yeah,
My world wasn't going to fall apart. So that was something I also had to learn within recent years. I don't know if you think 2007 or 8 is recent, but this lesson I had to learn that might have come around 2012ish, 13ish, somewhere around there. So, I
mm-hmm.
mean, it's not too far away, but it is pretty recent when you think about the years that I've been on this earth,
Mm-hmm.
without
Mm-hmm.
telling you how many years I've been on this earth.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, that was something else I had to grapple with because um, doing because all of those things were important to me. And if I felt like if I didn't do it a certain way or get it right, it fed into insecurities. It fed into stress in my life. And yeah, with insecurities and stress, that's enough right there to drive a person crazy.
For
So
sure.
that was a lesson I had to learn. Like, oh, you need to slow down. And slowing down is not a bad thing. Matter of fact, slowing down is a good thing because
Mm-hmm.
then you can give your best when you're doing those other things.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
That's so great. I mean, the couple things that stuck out to me when you were explaining that lesson, like it reminded me, I had one of my teachers, it was a health coach teacher, actually told me I think one of us in the class said something like, "Oh, okay, I'll get this to you right after class or something." And he was like, "It's no rush." And he said, we have these there's so many false senses of urgency in life. Like, why are you rushing? I didn't tell you a deadline or anything. And it just made all of us kind of pause and like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, like there's so many false senses of urgency, like, okay, I got to do
Mhm.
this and I got to do it now, or you know,
Right.
and it sounds dramatic when we say, if I do say, articulate that if we don't do it, that we feel like the world is going to fall apart. But that's a lot of times how some of us move. Like we act
Mhm.
like if we don't do it right then and now, that it's the end of the world.
Mhm.
We may not be kicking and screaming about it, but our attitude shifts, our mood shifts, how we show up for whatever we're doing. It's just, it ruins our day in a sense, or at least ruins the moment sometimes.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely. Yep.
when really it's like, is this truly something I need to do in this moment, or is this kind of a bit of a false sense of urgency
Right.
there? And when you were saying that, with having to deal with so many responsibilities that often are your joy, but they can require a lot, and you want to show up for them in a lot of ways, being a spouse and a mother and working and volunteering and all these things. They are things that you feel you want to do and need to do, and they do fill you up in a lot of ways. But like you
Mhm.
said, when you can't show up in the way that the energized version of you don't really show up
Mhm.
doing those things well. And actually, and the other thing this reminded me of, I went to that yoga class on the beach this past Sunday. It was so nice.
Mhm.
It was my first time going to a yoga class in person. But anyway, um, at the end of the class, the instructor was like, or maybe it was the beginning. It was the beginning of the class. The instructor had us repeat an affirmation, and I think we repeated it like 10 or more times. And the affirmation was, I deserve my own love. And the first time I was like, okay, like, but like the more you say it, like, I deserve my own love. And like by like the 10th time, I was like, yeah, I deserve my own love. Because, if you think about it, like generally, spouses, if you're with a partner, you love that person and you give them love and you show them love. Your
Right.
children, you give them love. You show that you're showing love and passion and purpose with all these things, with work, with everything that we volunteer in or show up in and stuff, or work for, whatever. And that's so much love that we're giving. And it's
Mhm.
like a good reminder that you deserve that too, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
love is what fills people up. So if you can't fill
Mhm.
your help or contribute to filling your own self up, you're really missing out and could be depleting yourself and stretching yourself thin. So I thought that was a really great affirmation. You actually just reminded me of that, I deserve my own love. And I'm like, wow.
Right. That
So
is. That's neat.
yeah,
That's
so
a
that
good
was,
one.
yeah. So that reiterates the whole lesson of taking time to slow down. And
Mhm.
so yeah, and how you were saying you were learned that maybe around 2012 area time frame, and you're better with it now. So when you try to slow down now, is there a little bit maybe like less guilt? Because I know sometimes that's what a lot of us deal with feeling
Mhm.
guilty, like how you were saying, with wanting to slow down but feeling like you should do something else. Is there less guilt now that you've been practicing it for a bit?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I know if I get the rest that I need, or if I take the time that I need, then I can show up I can show up other places the way that I need and not halfway do something. And that
Yeah.
also means that if there's a big task that I need to do, I can break it up. I can be like, oh, well, I can do this half today and the next half tomorrow, and everything will
Mhm.
be okay. Like, I don't have to do everything in one day or in a
Yeah.
certain time period. Now, I mean, like, it's not like you have to be at your doctor's appointment at a certain time. That's something you don't have control over. But the stuff around the house, or the stuff that I want to plan leisurely, I can plan it whatever time I want. I can break it up in whatever time, in any way that I want. And it's okay. And if it's going to affect other people, then I'm allowed to say, hey, I need this few minutes, this hour, whatever, to take a nap, or just to decompress. and then I can get to this.
Yeah, yeah. So it
Hmm.
sounds like, over time you have learned that with taking, first you have learned that it's okay to slow down and then kind of have to overcome the guilt or the pressure to not slow down. But you've learned
Right,
to accept and really prioritize that because it kind of gives you the energy to be able to do the things that you want to do. And
right,
you can not only be energized to do them, but you can do them well.
exactly. And if I'm doing them well, then everyone benefits.
Exactly,
Mhm.
absolutely.
And then if I'm doing them and I have the rest that I need, or I've taken off the time that I need, when I do the task, it's not really a task. It's something I've learned to
Mm,
do. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So, because for example, cooking, I really like to cook.
Hmm.
However, um, sometimes it can feel like a task,
Yeah.
and sometimes I may not feel like doing it, but I know I have to do it. Uh,
Right.
so if I plan it the day before or a couple of days before, or sometimes I can prep for a meal, cut up the vegetables or whatever, a day or two early, it makes it easier for me later. So, or if
Yeah.
we have to eat a little bit later on, okay, so be it. My family understands. Sometimes they're a little hungry, but they understand and work with me. So I've learned that I have to listen to my body and my mind.
Hmm.
And that's just one example. It's not always cooking, but that's
Right,
just an
right,
example.
right,
So
absolutely.
I've learned to kind of slow down and get it together.
Right, right. And
Tighten
so
up.
tighten up. That's good. That's really great. So with both of these lessons of learning to um, like slow down and also learning to maybe read the room or emotionally regulate. We've talked about some of the benefits that you realize, like, you're less stressed, less overwhelmed as well, and
Hmm.
showing up better and more prepared. Do you feel there's any other benefits that you've gotten from these lessons, or that you're currently receiving from these lessons?
Absolutely. Like, I just feel like there's a peacefulness and a calmness in my life. Like, I can still have all these things going on. I still have family. I still have a spouse. I'm still involved in extra activities. Um, and though I have cut back on some activities, but I still have a lot going on. But through all of that, I know what I need to do to have the peace and to have the calmness, and especially with overstepping boundaries and presuming
Hmm.
my ideas or yeah, my ideas or the way I would handle something on someone else. That's completely like not even it's not even realistic. Why would I think because of the way I handle something someone else is supposed to handle it the same exact way or feel
Hmm.
about it the same exact way. So what does that do if I handle things that way? It makes me stressed. It makes me upset. So now that I don't do that, uh, or rarely do it, or catch myself doing it, um, I can redirect myself and it won't cause me any stress. There's, like I said, a peacefulness and a calmness because when you're
Yeah.
always in that state, it kind of, um, well, everyone knows what stress is. It's uncomfortable. Like you're always on edge. So now that I've learned those lessons, my life is a lot calmer and peaceful. I feel like it is.
Yeah.
And if I'm calm and peace, then people around me are a little relaxed too.
Yes, that's so great, and I hope whoever is listening to this that you're catching that these lessons. It's a lot of internal work, and
Mhm.
it is what I'm gathering is how you got there is by taking time, and maybe the time has increased over time, or but at least starting with taking a moment to
Mhm.
reflect and consider another perspective,
Yes,
you know.
yes,
So
exactly.
that's good. It's absolutely not easy to do, and slowing down or with, emotionally regulating ourselves. But as you can hear, there's plenty of benefits like that can affect very much how you show up in your day to day life
Hmm.
as well. And it seems like it's brought a lot of peace and comfort and calmness, as you said, uh,
Hmm.
to you.
Absolutely,
That's so great.
absolutely. Mhm.
Anything else you want to share with everyone, or any words of encouragement or thoughts that you wanted to get out before we wrap up here?
Just some words of encouragement is that um, it is super important that you learn you. Like you need to take the time to figure figure it out. It's not always on someone. Like people can do things, and yeah, it does directly affect you, but you have a choice as well. And I think like it's the first story that I told you, the setting that I was in, and sometimes you're put into a situation where you have to kind of get it together because the setting that I was in and that with that story, we were on a retreat. So was I going to sit there at the retreat pouting the whole time and not
Right.
interacting with everyone? I was like, you have to get it together because I believe we were going to go to dinner soon as a group.
Mm.
And I was like, you can't go to a dinner and have this attitude and in a leadership position and then people are looking at you. I mean, you can do that and you can be completely fake. You
Right.
can put on that you can put on a show for an hour or two. But that's not what I wanted to do. I really wanted to enjoy everyone that I was around and I wanted to show up not only for them but show up for me. I wanted to have a good time. And so
Yeah.
little that little incident forced me to get it together to like, okay, this is what I need to, in order to know that I'm going to have a good time, is I got to let go and I got to figure out how to do it. And that's when I was like, oh, well, she actually could have been doing that to protect me. She actually could have been uncomfortable herself. Like it wasn't,
Yeah.
the whole situation was not about me. I walked into it, so it wasn't about me anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah, you just have to if you can, and I know it's tough because it was tough for me, um, ask yourself the tough questions like what's really going on? Not just
Yeah.
from my point of view, from someone else's, how it could be perceived. Your perception is a tight,
Yeah.
thin line to be on. So just
Absolutely.
realize that someone may not be attacking you or trying to hurt you,
Right.
you
Right.
know? Yeah. So that's what I would say, encourage people to be like, don't always jump to the worst conclusion. Like, slow down and think about it.
Yeah. And to just reiterate and highlight what you said, because I think that was a wonderful encouragement, that we definitely don't have to always be on the defense and feel, even when we feel attacked, to kind of check our own feelings and see if we are
Yeah,
actually um, being attacked. So taking that moment of pause. And another thing that I feel like the sum of what you're saying is that you can choose to redirect your feelings, like how you were saying you were heading out to dinner, and you could have went all upsetting your feelings and stuff. That's always an option, but do you want to go to dinner out on a retreat in your feelings? Like, so sometimes
right.
that's a like almost a basic question, but we sometimes need to bring us back into the present. Ask us, ask those kinds of questions. And you can
Right.
choose, not saying it's easy and that it doesn't take practice, because that's the only way you're going to get good at it is practicing redirecting your feelings. And redirecting, I don't mean to ignore or stuff down those emotions or everything, but
Hmm.
that's why we're saying this, take a moment to consider, and there's an alternative. There's
Right.
something else. And you can go back to that situation if it's still bothering you, maybe after the dinner, and maybe you and your friend can have one-on-ones, or maybe it's something you need to work out within yourself, because not everything needs confrontation with a person. Sometimes it's about confronting things within yourself. So
Absolutely. Yep.
is really wonderful encouragement and lessons that all of us can either learn or develop in our skills of that as well. So thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I feel, like I said earlier, honored.
Oh, I have one quick question for to end us off here.
Okay.
Um, in two sentences or less, what does living well mean to you?
Living well means taking care of your whole self, taking care of your body, your mind, your relationship, your environment, the whole thing. And it doesn't have to be done overnight, continually to grow.
I couldn't have
That's
said
what
it
lives
better.
in. Oh, good.
Good. I'm gonna have you come back.
I'll come back.
Great, great. All right, y'all. Well, that's gonna wrap up our conversation today. Again, my mom, it was the guest. Her name is Tracy. She's not heavy on social media for me to tell y'all to like go follow her pages or anything, but I'll try to post pictures of us here and there so y'all can see her face. Where some people say we're twins, so uh, but thank you all so much for listening again. Thank you, Mommy, for coming to visit. I love you, and I can't wait for y'all to hear this.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.
I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed talking with my mom about emotionally regulating and also deciding how to slow down so that we can show up better in our lives. I learned some things about her. So I just hope that this discussion or conversation offered you something to think about, because it definitely did that for me. Since this is the first interview episode, I would love to hear your feedback. Please rate the podcast if you haven't done so, or if it's been a while since you've done so. And also leave me a comment with your feedback. I know that Apple Podcast and YouTube are two places where you can leave comments. So please give me your feedback. You can share what you liked, what you feel like we did well. And if you feel there is something that we could improve on, I would like to know that feedback as well. But anyway, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And remember, peace of mind, energy to thrive, and living well is accessible and available to you. All right. Take care. Bye.